Everybody to this webinar, which is being brought to you by the Nordic Network for Adult Learning in cooperation with a lot of other organizations that you can see over there. It's part of a Nordplus project called Presence at a Distance, and we also have support from another of other enthusiastic distance learning organizations around the Nordic region. My name is Alistair Creelman. I work at Linnaeus University in Kalmar in the southeast of Sweden. I'm the moderator of this session, and during this time you'll be meeting my colleagues from around the Nordic region, and the subject of today's webinar is about distance learning in rural areas, and we're going to ask the question, what happens when the project funding ends? What factors decide whether that project goes on to become mainstream activity in the region or municipality and becomes successful? And what barriers are there to this success? Because we've seen around the Nordic region, in all countries, many inspiring examples over the past 20 years of distance learning projects, many of which have become very successful indeed, but others have fallen by the wayside. And we want to look at what determines success. And we hope to have a series of webinars on this topic and a number of physical workshops in various locations around the Nordic region over the next 2 years as part of this project. Before we go any further, I will also say that those of you who are participants, you're able to comment all the time in the chat. If you've got links to good ideas, to good projects, put the link in. It's clickable in the recording. Most of the interaction will be in chat or in questions that we put to you. For reasons of bandwidth and so on, we are not giving video and audio rights to all the participants, but if you have got a headset set up and you are able to speak, then if you put your hand up, if you raise your hand, I'll see if I can give you the microphone rights later on. First though, quickly, my colleagues here, could you introduce yourself just quickly?
Hello, my name is Taru Kekkonen. I work for Omnia, which is the joint authority of education in Espoo region. I work here as an education manager in Finland.
Mia?
Hello, my name is Mia, and I'm from Ottawa Folk High School, Finland, Mikkeli, and I'm the head of our online upper secondary school.
And I'm Hróbjartur Árnason. I'm at the University of Iceland, where I teach adult learning, teach people to teach adults.
And I'm Toril Slotto, working with the National Association Flexible Education Norway.
Okay. And my name is not Campus Västervik. My name is Jerry Engström, and I work as a manager at Campus Västervik. I'm also a member of the board of NITUS in Sweden.
Yeah, a learning center organization. Okay, thanks for that. You'll be hearing from these people very soon. To start the webinar, we'd like to ask you a question. A little bit of brainstorming to kick off with. We want to know what factors do you feel influence the success of educational projects to support rural development? Can you come up with some factors? It could be just one word, it could be a few words, it could be a sentence. Just type your answer and let's see what you say. Get you working immediately here. What are the key factors? Bandwidth. Yep, infrastructure is pretty, if you don't have the bandwidth, then nothing happens, really. Add some more, please. Maybe details even. Tech support, yes. Comments from my colleagues?
Accessibility is, of course, very important.
And like that one, will the participants want to stay in the region afterwards, or will they leave to the big city? And this is really the is so important.
Competence and interested
Otherwise,
learners,
it's a waste of time if we're just helping people to move.
Interesting.
And distance yeah, sorry, Roberto. Yeah. And laws that support education from a distance.
Yeah, that's important, because in many countries, like in Norway, distance education is not so much supported.
And the
so that's very interesting.
Local, I found that local authority support
is another interesting. I mean, the people who are doing the training need to be competent in the digital media they're using, and that is not always evident. Also, the learners need to be competent in using the digital media. Okay. That's a little. We've got some of the issues up already now, and we want to look at some of these and investigate a little bit further. And to start us off, I'd like to move over to Robjartur, who will give us a sort of introduction to this. What you can do is we'll listen to Robjartur for a few minutes now with some background and think of some questions to put in the chat or make some points. So I'll just change this screen again, and I will take my video away and leave it hand over to Robjartur.
Okay, thank you. What I want to do is to just introduce what we're doing. And a few years ago, in Distance, we had a project where we gathered information about how people were trying to support rural development in rural areas around Scandinavia, or the Nordic countries. And as you see in the picture, these are the places where we had symposia, and we chose places the farthest away from the centers of each country to get to know the people who were really working in this area. And the result of this is in a report which you can find at the NVL site, where we reported what we learned. But I want to tell you a bit about what we learned there. So when we started off, what we learned was that the people who were working with distance education in rural areas, they were trying to tackle specific challenges. They mentioned things like shrinking infrastructures, few opportunities for people to learn and for work, a very simple work market which was getting more monotonous, a lower quality of life, and those who were working in the educational sector said that it was difficult to offer interesting learning opportunities because the students were few and they were scattered. We had people, for example, in Husavik who were needed to drive maybe 100 kilometers to come to school, and so this created a challenge. And so, and these are challenges I think you all know, and what we, because of the possibilities of technology like the one we're using right now, we try to use technology to bridge these distances. What then, an interesting point came from one of our presenters who was at the University of Tromsø. What was driving them to offer distance learning was the possibility of having qualified workers in the regions, that people could qualify and increase their qualifications to work in the various regions where they lived. They were hoping for increased innovation, and they were also wanted to even out the social and geographical inequality. People who live in isolated areas often experience quite a lot of inequality because of where they live. And democratic participation, that is one of the reasons why we have education in our countries, personal development, and of course they wanted to slow down emigration from these areas. A few examples from Iceland. We have an old example where nurse students formed a group in Ísafjörður. There are some of you in Ísafjörður right now, and you remember that they gathered together a group of people who wanted to become nurses, and they met in a classroom in Ísafjörður and listened to lectures which were being held in Akureyri at the same time. This is quite some time ago, and that was one way of addressing it. The University of Iceland went completely the other way. They offered asynchronous learning. That is to say, individual students, they pursued their studies, they came to the university in the capital twice a year, and then worked asynchronously online, each at their computer at home, so they would write to each other, etc. And the third example was one of our computer schools, who held courses and classes in their classrooms and then invited people who live out in the rural areas to be part of what was happening in the classroom by sitting at their computer at home, and they would be controlling a computer in the room and be helped in that way. So these are just 3 examples of what we were doing here in Iceland, and we have many more, and we heard many more during these symposia. And what we learned through our discussions with the people who had been doing all sorts of projects, all sorts of different ways, is that of educating people through the net, that we were told that online students tend to connect the content less to their situation than other students. And this we found very disturbing. And Marianne Solberg, she went deeper and she said the students find it difficult to connect the learning to their own life, to find their voice. They kind of seem to be on the surface much. And Anna Guðrún Edvaldsdóttir, who studied people in the west of Iceland and on the islands of Scotland, she found that the students did not question the content. They were not, critical, and often did not relate the content to their own situation. So, and even she found that women didn't go into new arenas. They learned to be nurses, teachers, etc., instead of trying business or engineering or something. Moreover, we found, and this is from Anna Guðrún's dissertation, education is not enough. People, if they want to stay in an area, they want a good life. They want a level of quality of life. And finally, what we did see was that technology can increase quality of life in some ways. It can open out the isolation, help people connect to other people, both locally and internationally. For example, the idea of being able to meet people from other countries who have your interest. Maybe nobody in your town is interested in the same as you. You can participate in groups who are interested in that theme. Just like we are doing right now. We're a few people meeting together who are interested in distance learning. So this is no news to you, but this is what we found there through our projects. So because I teach people how to teach, and I'm interested in didactics. How do you teach? Well, the learning I took from this was number one, we need to train and create a community, a learning community online, and train people in doing so themselves, and help the students connect learning to their local life. So my pointers for my colleague teachers would be, to emphasize community in online courses. Do something in the online courses to create a sense of community and train the participants in these skills. Also to help them join other communities of practice, social networks where they can connect to people who have the same interests as they have. And then the second point is help them to connect the learning to the local life. We who live in the city and are offering distance learning to people in the rural areas, we need to be more occupied with helping our students to connect the learning to a local meaning, to personal consequences. So give them projects where they are connecting the content to their local area, but with questions, learning projects and flexibility, and help them to connect the studies to a local benefit. And what we're doing now in this project, we're revisiting these projects, and we want to map and document and analyze the long-term impact of these short-term projects. So we met people from many different projects, and we want to contact them again and to see what are the conditions, what are the elements in distance learning that can lead to successful long-term effects. So we want to see, are there any factors in these projects which led to them being successful and living longer.
It does help if I put my microphone. I agree that I can't.
I've finished now.
I
see lots of people
just
have been
chat a little bigger. There's
stuff.
very good conversations going on here, and you can maybe see.
So if somebody has a question,
that this idea of community, with talking about how it's so important to get that feeling of community and having access to a community.
I think you need to turn on your
building
microphone,
a community
Alistair.
of teachers and learners. It's getting that Christian says here about how the advantage of being time neutral, that students can decide when to study. That, I don't know, that's true, but I think they also need that time to gather together as well. If there's the balance between being independent and learning as a social process. Yeah. What do you?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think this is very interesting. You know, time neutral or not, and we have tried both things, and there is, for example, the computer school, they offered people to be, they had to be on that time. So this helped with discipline, for example, and commitment. But today we also need this flexibility.
Also,
we have both needs.
Thoroddr
Thoroddr has been writing,
use
and
learning
he's not
centres
sure
so
these
much because the
issues
students
are
are pretty much at
specific
their kitchen
online.
tables.
I think
But that, of
you're
course,
right. These are
assumes that they're able to do
these
that.
are
Not everybody
issues
is at
which
home
are
in that environment. And
rural,
they need the moral
and
support
we're
of
using
a physical
online
place
learning
to go, and they
to
maybe
address them.
lack the digital skills.
What I found interesting is that the University of Akershus just bought what's it called,
I think we move quickly before we go on to further examples to
so
a
they
little
bought
question again.
these new
Some
study
quick
centers to
answers from
create
you
a
all
place
here.
for their
What are the main
students to come
barriers to
to
successful
gather
development
to.
of distance learning in
So,
rural areas?
it might be
Where are the
interesting,
problems?
to see from Isafjord
I suppose
if
it's a little
they're
bit,
using
when we asked for the sort of
how
success
the
factors,
study centers
the barriers
have
are
been
the lack
used
of them.
for
But let's see what comes up here.
distance learning.
I just realized that the success factors and the barriers are the opposite of each other, or the same factors. Converting the teachers, yes, lack of trust. The other speakers are welcome to contribute to the chat or to come in and answer if you want. Lack of peers to study with. Now there's, again, back to the learning center, or the where do you find those peers to study with? Maybe you're not studying the same subject, but you need people to support, to give you that encouragement to go on.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Now there's an interesting one on transmitting, Roberta, if you read that.
Yeah, and the Swedish learning centers, they offer access to peers, even though they might even be studying something else. And I know the learning centers in Iceland often.
Yeah, I didn't press the button to let
the
you
same
see the
kind of
answers.
service.
Sorry.
Yeah.
How do the teachers give accurate feedback to students? I think it's perfectly possible and is done in many cases, but.
There are lots of points
And again,
here.
we've got the political priority to invest in distance learning. Another critical factor. And Thoroddr in the chat is now saying the big question is if you have education free of space constraints or free of time constraints. Is it space or is it time, or both, or which are the two critical factors? We need to move on, however. We can keep these in mind, but I'd like to invite Torhild to open up camera and microphone.
Yes.
Just a second.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi. I will talk about reindeers, which are not only in the rural areas, but actually in the mountain areas. We are going to Finnmark, Kautokeino area, and talk about education for reindeer owners and herders. That's a very old style of living. For generations, people have done this reindeer husbandry as a very special industry, you may say. And they have developed practical experience for years and years. We could say it is practical and tacit knowledge they have. No school, but learn from their parents and grandparents. There was once a boy called Mattis growing up in a reindeer husbandry family. He very much wanted to become a reindeer owner himself and work in this same industry as his parents and sisters and brothers. But he also liked very much to go to school. And he found out that he would like very much to study and to get a good education. And at the moment when he realized that he wanted to study, he also realized he couldn't work with the reindeer because it was not possible to do this combination. He had to choose. He chose education. But in the same time he developed a dream that it would be so nice if he could develop a course for the reindeer owners and herders, so that they could study, they could know more, they had the practical experience in the background, and they could learn more from the scientific knowledge. He studied and he became a teacher at the Sami University College in Kautokeino. And after some time there, he found out that he was actually in a position to develop this course, to realize his dream. It was quite some challenge for him to develop education in an industry where there has never been any education, because it's so many disciplines, so many subjects needed. For example, there is of course need of the biology and anatomy, but also the ecology, the meteorology, important, history, economy, management and entrepreneurship, language and law, politics, administration. So just imagine that it has to be quite a course. And he chose to make 4 modules with altogether 60 ECTs. And big thing, he had to make it online, combined with some meetings in the university college for those who could manage, because much of the time his students were looking after their reindeer out in the mountain. So, what were the results? Yes, he got a great interest. He had more than 40 persons told they would like to register in this course. Not all of them did, but I think about half of them completed all 4 modules, and some completed first and second modules too. And after this course, some of them continued their education. So he would have of course liked them all to complete. He was actually very satisfied, because it was proved that it was a very good course, very good help for them. And the students were so satisfied, because what they realized in the same time as they learned a lot from the scientific knowledge in combination with their own practical experiences. They also got much more self-confidence. They got the feeling that now we have also education. We have got some more knowledge. They realized that when they were out in the mountains, and there sometimes were the meetings about their rights, you know, there's things going on with the Sami rights, with the limits of different things, with the authorities want to control, etc., etc. They felt that they were much more able to stand up for their opinions, for their rights. They had got knowledge to discuss, to write down the reports, not only to be standing there without actually any power to talk for their rights. And when they also experienced that they have now got the guts to open their mouth in meetings and to articulate what they would like to say. This was 60 ECTs course with so many implications, so many results, much more than the course itself. This Mattis, who developed the course, he is now doing his PhD based on the evaluations and interviews after the course. And of course this was only a pilot. So I asked him if it's enough that his 30 people could do the studies, and he said that no, he wants to continue, of course. He wants to have a permanent course going on in the Sami University College in Kautokeino, so that many more people could do this. Second thing, at the time when this course was done, the technology was not so developed as it is today. They have not quite a good internet connection. They couldn't use the satellite because it was too expensive, etc. Today the things will work out much better, and the reindeer owners and herders may sit in their huts in the mountain and do the studies while their reindeer is taking rest. So this was a very special experience about courses in rural mountains areas, but a lot to learn. And when this PhD thesis will be written, we could also get more insight in the evaluation of the course. Yeah, I think that's enough from this side.
Thanks, Torhild. If that is that's one of the most inspiring examples of successful distance learning, really, because your image of these guys sitting there out on the tundra or up in the mountains with their reindeer and taking part in education at the same time shows that education can reach everywhere today.
Yeah.
And talking in the chat there about empowerment, because education is empowerment, and I think what you said at the end there about
this is a great example. This is a great example of empowerment. That was a very strong impression.
And they now have the guts to articulate. They can stand up in meetings because they've studied the subject and they know more. They have more confidence to express themselves. There's a question here about what platform or device did you use? Torhild, if you could answer that in the chat, please, because I'd like to get Taru and Maya in to continue this. So if you could continue in the chat there with Gabriela. So now we move on to a third example from Finland. And Taru and Maya, it's all yours.
Thank you. So Mia and me, we will be talking, but while we talk, we would like you to look at this young man called Lasse Hoffman and read his story, because I think he's a very good example of why we've been doing this, and Mia and her colleagues are still working for a school that we call Ottawa Online Upper Secondary School for Adults. So they have a school building that is more than 100 years old, back there in Ottawa, in a pretty sparsely populated area in eastern Finland. So there is a school building, but anyway, the school operates online and all the students are online. And they've been doing that from this old building for already 20 years, which is a long time in the history of online learning and also in the history of the internet, actually. So first of all, I would like to say congratulations to this 20-year-old online school. And we heard that the story began in a 3-year project back in 1996. It was a project that Mia, you first started to produce learning content that you published online for anyone to use, but you also had the idea that you wanted to swim against the current, so to say, and against the current of citizens moving from the rural areas to bigger cities to be able to study. So in other words, with the help of the new technology, you wanted to bring the school to the remote areas, to the people living in there, so that they didn't have to move from the countryside to bigger cities to be able to study. And Mia, when we talked earlier, you said that there was a big need for this kind of service. Could you tell us a bit more about this need?
Mm-hmm. Yes, the project we started with was aimed at creating online materials that could be studied anywhere. But soon our appetite grew and we decided to build the whole upper secondary school for adults on the net. A school that would be open all day and all night long and could be attended anywhere in Finland or even in the world. And this way we believed we would best meet people's educational needs also in remote areas. And all this required some new kind of thinking, as the whole concept was built on trust. There were and still are no course exams or strict teacher control. The teachers are there to help students when needed, but otherwise it's the students who are in charge of their own learning, and they show their learning by completing different kinds of learning assignments that form their course portfolios. But very soon we noticed that these people weren't the only group that benefited from our way of offering online education. There were people from various backgrounds who showed interest in our school. There were people from with health issues, home parents, people working in shifts. The connecting factor being that they weren't able to attend school that required them being present. And our flexible formats made it possible for them to study and advance their own lives from their homes. And this surely is one of the key elements in the growth of our online school, the concept found new target groups.
Okay. And the first project started in 1996, but I guess now that it's already 22 years or something. Back, you don't have at some point the project money ran out. What happened then when you ran out of the project money?
Yeah, the money, yeah. So we were offering education that was part of the formal education system, upper secondary school education for adults. All the materials, most of the materials produced in the original project were upper secondary school courses. And as upper secondary school education in Finland is funded by the state, quite soon after the project ended, we were financially independent. With the help of this upper secondary school funding, we were then able to continue developing the structures of the school, pedagogical approaches, administration, and so on. So being part of the formal education system and its funding has been essential for the success.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then I would like to know what happened to the small schools in the remote areas, because there probably were schools, or maybe still are schools in the remote areas. I could guess that they were and are lacking students. So weren't you kind of stealing them their students?
I hope not, but I don't believe so, because our target groups have always been people who aren't served by the formal education system, and if these students hadn't been studying in our school, they most likely wouldn't have studied anywhere. So I don't believe we were stealing students from these small schools. We were and still are reaching for people who were outside of this formal system.
Okay. And could you still tell us a bit about the people, the staff who made all this possible? What kind of a team does this kind of a school require? Is it just teachers, or how does it work?
In the mid-90s, as we were starting, Ottawa Folk High School had the upper secondary school for adults and its teachers there in the campus. But still, most of the people developing structures and practices of this online upper secondary school weren't teachers, but they came from different occupations. There were software designers, learning designers, people from marketing and administration, and this surely affected the thinking and processing of the concept. They were kind of thinking outside the box, as they weren't so stuck only to teaching in a classroom. But still, it needs to be said that students were on focus all the time. The idea was to find ways to make it easy and approachable for them. And I think throughout these 20 years, there have been a group of people from different professions creating this school. And I believe this has supported the development in many ways for these new kind of solutions. And ways of running the school and offering new educational paths for our students.
Okay, that were actually my questions that I planned to ask, so I hope you other participants have some other questions or comments. But if I try to briefly sum up the success factors, so Mia, do you agree if I say that one was that there was a need for this kind of service, then it was quite essential that when the project money ran out, you were already established in the formal school system and got the funding for the school from the state, and then you had a good team to build all this and run the school, and you still have that. A multi-professional team, and what else was there? Well,
I think these were the key factors I would name. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Taru, Mia. I would urge you to ask any questions in the chat just now, because we have a final example for you. And if Taru and Mia can answer any questions that turn up in the chat.
Sure.
Jerry, if you could switch on your camera, I will change to your presentation. And it's really a beautiful photo, but there's a story behind it.
Yeah, there's a story behind it, and I tried to tell some of the facts in a couple of minutes. What are we, for example? Learning Centre, Study Centre, University College? No, we call us a local campus because of our focus is higher education, university level education. And a local campus is by our means that we are owned and operated by the municipality, and all education takes place in collaboration with universities, such as Linnaeus University. The university owns the courses, and we work online, IRL. So the students gather here in groups, and the teachers are at their universities. The main background why we are here is that we have really high needs of educated people in our labor market. And we have at least 150 kilometers to the nearest universities. And we have a lot of people who would not like to move from our community. We started at 1997. We have around 500 students in higher education. We have a small research and development department. We are around 20 employees at Campus Västervik. And I think I go to the to the conclusion of some of the success factors. We started as a EU-funded project who ends in 2001. And after this, we have to stay on our own. One of the most important factor is to learn our politicians so they have the knowledge about our business. Because when they found out what we're good for, they also can give us the funding we need. As you see on the picture, we have a quite large building, but we believe in gather the groups together and the social environments for our students. We think it's very important. I also saw before in the chat the support for the students, and there I see the competence of our employees is very important. We have, for example, 3 people working exclusively with technical issues for students. We focus on education for the needs of the labor markets. In Västervik, as a municipality, we need to hire about 2,500 people with higher education in about 8 years. So we are one of the factors. We can't make it all, but we are one of the factors who can contribute to filling up this labor market. That means also that we have a lot of collaboration with the labor market, and we meet the labor market and they represent monthly to see what the needs are now and what the needs are in the future. We also work very tight with the region, with our municipalities in our neighborhood, Vimmerby and Hultsfred municipality, the northern Kalmar region. We work together also since 1997. Also very important for us, there is student interests, and there is. We have a lot of students who want to educate themselves in our premises, but we haven't all the places yet. We're working to that. And another thing which is important for the students is that they can go to work after educated by us, and they do. For now, there are 98% who has the work ready before they have finished their studies. And I think it's very important with the willingness of all involved, the community, the politicians, the universities, the staff here, the students, a willingness to continue to evolve or develop this campus and make it more accurate for all these partners and more accurate for the society, because the society, Västervik municipality, now sees that we are a very important part for the society growth. I think that's why all the politicians agreed that we should further expand. And that's what we are now going to do. We are going to expand even more. And in my humble opinion, we're trying to build our way of the future environment for lifelong learning. I can talk about this for 5 hours. I think in this 3-4 minutes I got the most of it, but you're welcome to ask questions.
Thanks, Jerry. I think it's just a great example, really, of how if you can show that you are solving the problems that the politicians are most concerned about, and that is keeping expertise in the municipality and in the region and not having a brain drain, then it's one of the strongest, must be one of the strongest arguments showing that through your operations, you're helping to keep talented people at home. And as you said, train the politicians first. Go hand in hand with them, explaining why is this important. And also, I suppose it must be about persuading them to have patience and not expecting instant results, because it's a long process.
Yeah, it is a very long process. But nowadays, wherever you go, you meet earlier students from us. Wherever you go on a workplace in Västervik.
Yeah.
So that's the proof, actually.
So you can have a look at the website. I'm not sure if there's anything in English, but I think the majority of people who are watching this can read the Swedish information.
Yeah.
It's soon time to finish, but what we would like from you now, if I move here, the rest of you my colleagues, other presenters, you can make yourself visible again. What we'd like in this chat box here is for you to give us some links. Let's have some good examples of other successful distance learning projects that have become mainstream operations. Give us some tips. We want to know lots. I suppose your own will be good examples, but give us the links and or say a little bit about it. If anyone wants the microphone, you just put up your hand there and I'll sort that out. We will be finishing we'll be started a little bit late, so we'll be finishing maybe a little bit after the hour. Because it would be nice to have some examples from you. And Aki has to go now, but thanks for being with us. I know it's always a problem when we run a little bit over, but Cobra.eu from Bernadette. I'm not sure. Tell us a little bit more. And there's another part of Ottawa's information there. Let's, just links, please. Remember to press the space bar after you've done the link, because then it becomes a hyperlink. And please come back, Taru, Torhild, and Mia, and Roberto. Any ideas from you while people are typing?
Well, I think we do have a lot of, and I expect most of the people who are with us here have a good example where they're working themselves. So.
But I do realize the challenge that in Finland you don't have enough information in English, so that's a problem. But that's something that we should learn about.
But you know, if you open, I know it's a bit of a lottery with the Nordic languages, of course, but Google Translate, if you just take the link to any web page and put it into Google Translate, and then in the original language, and then you can translate it to your own. And actually, several times recently, I've done that. Just put the web link in, and it translates the whole page. And I was doing that last week for Russian pages. And the translation to English from Russian was actually excellent. It read perfectly naturally. However, from Finnish to Icelandic, I think it could be a little bit interesting, but you never know.
We'll give it a try.
You can always try to English, because if you trying it to English could probably be fine, good enough. And we're getting some examples here. Kunskapsskolan, and then and Peter suggests that we should all learn Finnish.
Yeah, well, why not?
Vilken hyvä idé. And those articles are useful in this discussion. Yes, please give us links to them. Are they?
Well, they're... Yeah.
Did he? Okay.
He put them up there. Well, not the links, but the info. Oh, one is in press, but I've seen the other one.
Okay, I think we probably have to cut that a little bit short, because time is pretty well up, and we cannot detain you any longer. We have at the bottom, there are some links to ourselves in the NVL Distance Network and the project page, which will be updated soon and much more active. Any points about the webinar? Did it work? Did it? What would you like to see in the future? Would you like to have more webinars on some other subject? And in the chat, people are already saying goodbye. So really, it's sort of time to wrap up, but you're welcome to hang on a little bit and chat. And if you want, as I said, the microphone, you're welcome to have a go. Any final words before I switch off the recording?
Well, thanks a lot for your input in the chat and in the polls. And please evaluate this webinar, and we hope to see you again. We will be continuing this, so you'll be getting emails from us with the recording and with our next webinar. And when we're around your corner in the Faroes, in Iceland, in Norway, Sweden, Denmark, we will be having seminars in different places during the next few years. So maybe we'll meet you there, and we really hope to.
And thank you for being here, Varberg. I didn't notice, Eva, that you had dropped in, so that's nice. And we've covered most of the Nordic region, Åland, but sadly Faroes and Denmark and Greenland have not been involved this time.
Before you leave, please do put some comment in the evaluation. It's anonymous. We don't know who says what.
Oh, in that case, I will answer right.
Yes, all of us can write down the best thing I've ever heard in my life, you know. So we're just really starting here. This is a first part. We hope to come with more sort of more detailed ideas about success factors and discussions in later webinars. So I think I will turn off the recording. When I do that, then you can write anything you like because you're off the record. So thank you for today. Please send the link to anyone you think might be interested in watching afterwards.